Hey folks, it's your pal Mike Shea from slyflourish.com and twitter.com/slyflourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. Every Sunday morning I get together with folks on Twitch and go over the steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday D&D game, in this case, which is Tomb of Annihilation. I have another guest with me today, Oreo, who's a giant cat, 8-year-old cat. Now he's wondering why the shades are down and that he finds that upsetting. I'll just have to learn how to deal with it. I'd pick him up and show you, but he hates to be picked up. So he'll just be clattering around here. So let's see. Things we can talk about today. We can go over the steps. We can talk about the game. We can talk about a couple of the new D&D releases that came out. Ravenloft came out a while ago. Ravnica, the new campaign setting. And Tomb of the Mad Mage. Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Man, I'm stepping all over products today. What else? I can hear myself. Oh, that's because I'm running the Twitch station and the other channel to make sure everything's working all right. And I don't need to do that anymore, so we'll just minimize that. If you happen to be in Twitch chat, feel free to say hello. I've got the little Twitch chat window up here so I can see what's going on. What else? News on the Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master Kickstarter. Once again, hopefully anybody who backed has received their digital products. If you haven't, log into Kickstarter, go to your backed projects and look for messages under Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, and you will see a link that is linked to all of your rewards. If you are a backer of the hardcover or the print version, I am very close. I just ordered what I sincerely hope are the final proofs of the softcover version of Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master and the Lazy DM Workbook. The hardcover is already ready. I am probably 99% sure the softcover of both of the other ones are ready as well. We've gone over them many, many times. And the last version had a very slight error, and I fixed that because I just couldn't stand it. And then I had another tiny little error, and I fixed that too. And now it's approved. And I just got the proof copies sent. So I have to wait for the proof copies to show up before I can make it available. And I actually want to look at them and make sure they're cool. So I think probably a week from Monday-ish, maybe, depending on the shipping, probably a week after next is highly likely. Good morning from the 612. I don't know what 612 is. Is that an area code? Hangs around the fort is here, and Gondolar is here. Welcome, my friends. So, as we do in previous episodes of the show, I will start by going over the steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. You can follow along. Bex is here. Hello, Bex. I like that you have a little icon that says hello. I don't know how to use the icons. There's a little smiley face icon, but I presume there's more. If you want to follow along, you can download a sample of Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, which includes the checklist. It is linked down below on Twitch or on YouTube, and it includes, I think, 3 chapters from the book, including the checklist itself. One of the chapters is a review of the checklist. It doesn't get into the details, but it describes what I'm going to be describing today. The book, of course, has much more information in it. And of course, I highly recommend you buy it, or I wouldn't have bothered to spend 18 months writing it. So we will go to the checklist itself. I do this in every episode. I'm wondering if people look at that art, and that art great. That's the cover of the Lazy DM Workbook. It's also one of the pieces that's in the main book, too. I just couldn't stand not to have it in as many places as I could. Here's the Lazy Dungeon Master checklist. So I do this in every episode, and for those of you who have probably been watching, you're probably tired of it, but I think it's always good to kind of review it again, and sometimes new questions come up. You go like, why? You kind of learn a little something new every time. So there are 8 steps. These are not all. You don't have to follow all these. As I said before, you don't have to follow any of them. You follow whichever ones help you run a great game. But I tried to be as inclusive as I could to say here are the steps that we've got going on. Those steps include review the characters. Who are the characters in the game? What do they want? What are their backgrounds? What drives them? What motivates them? And what can you tug on? What little threads of their background can you tug on during the game? We put this first so that we can throw it into our head and fire ourselves up so that while we're doing the rest of our prep, we have the characters in mind. Create a strong start. Very important step. What is going to draw the players into the game? What makes them say, oh, we are no longer bantering about, and now we're actually playing D&D. What is occurring that they find interesting and that draws them into the game? Outline potential scenes is a feel-good step. If you feel like you need to have some scenes laid out just to have a general idea what the game's going to be like, you can do this. If you don't care, you don't have to do this. This is probably the most optional of the steps. Define secrets and clues, probably the hardest step, and the what I think maybe the most important step, although strong start is also a really important one. You could probably, the dirty secret is you can probably get away with a strong start in secrets and clues as long as you've got some place to run it, especially if you're running a published adventure. With secrets and clues, we think of the 10 things that our characters can discover in the next game. What mysteries might they uncover? What clues for the game might they pick up? I keep hearing things. These are my headphones. I can just turn the volume all the way off. What can they pick out? What little bits of history can they discover? These are usually like one sentence long. We do about 10 of them, and that kind of really pushes us to think deep about the game. And they are not tied to their place of discovery. So we don't know how they're going to pick these secrets up. This is probably of all of the prepare to improvise steps, this is a good one. We don't know. We improvise their location. It could be a magic sword tells them. It could be one of the spirits of the trickster gods tells them. It could be that they find a note written by Withers that he left sitting around. All these things could be locations for the secrets, but the secret itself is something we need to pay some attention to. Develop fantastic locations. If you are not running a published adventure, this is a critical step. Think of these as the backdrops behind each of the scenes. We do about one for every 45 minutes of gameplay. It's a rough estimate, but something like that. If you're doing 4 hours, do about 5 of them. You can do a few more if you want. And the idea here is we come up with an evocative, interesting location, and we come up with some aspects of that location. What are things about this location that the characters will be interested in and that the players can sort of, manipulate? The characters can manipulate, the players will be interested in. So, the example is we might have a location called the Sun Spire, right? And then we write down the locations like a blazing beam of light shining to the heavens, a moat of molten rock, and huge elven glyphs carved into ancient stone. That's an interesting place. And we do a bunch of these. So think of them like the backdrops to a play. That's the way I think about them. Outline important NPCs. If we have NPCs that are going to come up in the game that we think are important to remember, we write them down here along with perhaps a archetype from popular fiction. Many times we don't have to do these. If you're going to improvise your NPCs, you can just improvise away. But NPCs and role-playing is becoming more and more of high interest to players. I think as the game gets more story-based, interaction with NPCs is more important. So it's always, even if you're doing a dungeon delve, it's always worthwhile to have an NPC they could run into. Choose relevant monsters. What are the monsters that the characters are likely to face? Read the ecology of them. Go read the monster book and think about what makes them unique in the place. This isn't so much worrying about their stats, although if you're running a boss monster, it probably helps to read their effects. But generally, it's if you don't know what monsters are going to run into, go think of an ecology. A lot of people will actually go read the monster manual and build an entire adventure just from a monster entry, because the monster entries in the monster manual are it's like having 300 adventures in one book. And the last step is select magic item rewards. What are the items that the characters might recover? What magic items might they recover? Magic items are very important for character development, but they are in the sole hands of the DM to distribute. So thinking about what items they've got and what items they need is important. In the Tomb of Annihilation, it is riddled with magic items, so I'm not really worrying about this. I don't think any of my players are thinking man, I'm screwed, I have nothing. So I'm not worrying about it because there's so many magic items in the Tomb of Annihilation itself. So those are the 8 steps. I've been missing a bunch of stuff in chat here. Let's see. Would the Lazy DM's workbook be a good Christmas present for someone about to DM for their very first D&D game? Squidfather, I think both books are a fantastic Christmas present, and they are both priced affordably. And especially if you're going to buy the hard... So you want to make sure that you can get it by Christmas, even because I think it's going to be really close. So I think the print versions won't be available by Christmas. I would not expect them to be available by Christmas. However, you save on shipping if you order them together. That shipping is about $5 or $6 in the U.S. And you will want to ship them together because the prices in the book are cheap. I think it's going to be like $12 or $13 for the main book, and I think like $8 for the workbook in print. And then shipping is $6. So, buying multiple copies and buying them together I think really works. So yeah, I think the workbook is fantastic. I think it's useful for both home games and even it is. The rules that are in there are within Adventures League spec, so they should be legal for AL. Maybe some of the monuments and stuff like that are not, but a lot of the stats, I mean, a lot of the mechanics that are in there are all straight from the SRD, so they should be legal at even organized play games. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic gift. One of the things I did is I have many proof copies lying around that have small errors in them, and I actually took 2 of the proof copies that I had and took them down to Kinko's yesterday and had them spiral bound, and they are awesome in spiral bound. So I really wish I could have produced them in spiral bound, but Lightning Press, they're Lightning Source, they're people that do the print on demand, do not do spiral bound. It was $6 to spiral bound it, so one could theoretically buy the book for about $8 and then go get it spiral bound for $6, and it's got a nice plastic cover, and it's really excellent. So I think that's my preferred method of carrying the workbook around. Beck says that the workbook has a lot of tables and stuff to speed up handling and details of the game. Useful for sure, but ends up being more stuff on top. The only thing I'd mention is that it's got a lot of references in the beginning of the book that might be easy to look up. So I definitely put stuff in there that, it's got conditions in there, and it's got DCs, and it's got what skills match up to which attributes, which I always forget. So it's got a lot of basic stuff in there beyond the other tables for magic items and stuff. And I think that even new players could get some value out of, like, well, I don't know what to put here, or I don't know what to do. Let me just roll on this monument table. I don't know. I think that it could be useful for new players as well. It might be overwhelming, you're right, but it also could be it also could kind of push them to kind of think more creatively and to allow some of the tables to help fill in some of the blanks, which is its purpose as well. Step Back History is here. Hello, welcome. I got Divine Rune covered Cairn of Oozes. Make a Madman Shrine to Jubilex. Oh, Divine Rune covered Cairn of Oozes was something you rolled for a location. That is pretty awesome. And made a Madman's Shrine to Jubilex that attracts oozes. Yes. I think the locations. Let's flip over to that real quick. We're talking about the... So this is... I don't know why I didn't bother to mention it. This is the 5th edition reference stuff. And this is where I think even a new player could benefit from this. Actions and combat. These are all relatively basic ideas here. DC based on task difficulty and skills and attributes, stuff like that. Conditions are, of course, how do you handle conditions? What breaks concentration, exhaustion? These are all typical basics. Quick encounter building guidelines. I think these are really useful for new players, especially that at first level 1. Like, do not run guys that are bigger than this. So I use this running large number of monsters. I ran 200 crawling claws the other day, and was able to use this chart to handle the saving throws and everything for crawling claws getting hit by a turn undead, which got most of them. I think it got 160 out of 200 of them, and 40 were left, and then they were blasted with a wind wall, and that smashed them all up against the wall like big chunks of meat. So that was great fun. Players really thought that through. Madness, because I can't stand not having madness. I love madness. Bunch of names. I think like the names, I think these are all useful for new people. I think I really tried, one thing I noticed about Lazy Dungeon Masters, I thought the original Lazy Dungeon Master was more of an advanced guide. And I got a lot of people that said, no, I started with this and it was great. It made it easier. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not such an advanced guide. So with Return, I did not say it's, you got to know how to play, at least like watch a couple games, but I don't think you need like years of experience to be able to benefit from the ideas of these books. The intent is that by the time you've got, through like how to roll a 20 and how to make a character and that stuff, then you can start to use this stuff. So Random Monuments was Step Back Histories, divine rune covered cairn of oozes. The interesting thing is I wonder who died there, right? Like who's in the cairn. That's fascinating. So I love this chart. This is one, I forget what it is, like 20 times 20 times 20 times 100, 2,400, 8,000, 80,000, 800,000. So this is one that's like 800,000 different random monuments that you can have by rolling 4 times on this table. Let's roll one for fun, shall we? So we will roll. We have a abyssal rune-scribed water. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, no. Abyssal rune-scribed. I forget that you rolled the structure third. 51. Archway. Abyssal rune-scribed archway that's got like a watery surface to it. Now we got a portal to hell, or portal to the You know, a portal to the abyss. That's pretty sweet. That's something to find. What are you gonna do with that? So I built a lot of these random tables with like multi-dimensional random tables so that they aren't just like roll a 20 and you get a trap. It's like, no, you can roll 4 times on this thing and you can get, you know, thousands of traps. So these traps are theoretically, because you could keep stacking them up, it's relatively infinite on the number. If you wanted to have like a stack with 17 elements to it and each one has a different flavor, you know, you could have many, almost, like I said, almost infinite traps. Same thing with items. You know, lots of items. I use the item chart a lot. So yeah, all these charts and tables I think are really valuable. Okay, enough gushing about my own book. That's not, you don't want to do that in public. Beware the aboleths. Yeah, right. Like maybe a watery portal to the aboleths. But speaking of, there's an aboleth inside Tomb of Annihilation. So let's talk about the game. Let me switch over to my game window. There we go. So what happened last week? So last week, the party began their session. Let me get my little map up here. They started off. Trying to get. I should have had all these maps prepped ahead of time. Did they start here? They did not. But we'll open that in a new tab. That was level 2. So was it level 1? I guess they were on level 4. So they're going all over the place, these guys. That's level 5. Open that in a new tab. Boy, those Bodaks, man. They're scared to hell about Bodaks now. Characters have died to them. So they started in room 50 on level 4, and our new character, played by Brian, one of the players, his character Warren was one of the ones killed by the Bodaks, and then they had to fight Warren. So he now has a dragonborn dragon sorcerer that he is playing. What did they do? They made their way back. They had to give blood back again at area 51. As they made their way to back to room 52, which was empty, and then went through the secret chamber. And they decided they're going to face withers. They're going to go down there and mess with withers. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how cliche is running Vecna as a campaign big bad evil guy? You know, the Step Back History is asking this. Area 51 filled with aliens. You know, I don't know. Cliche, like, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons, right? We're playing a game that's 40 years old. So, and sometimes the cliches are comfortable. I don't know that having Vecna as a bad guy is a bad thing, particularly if the players know it's Vecna relatively early, right? And they know, like, oh man, we are fighting Vecna. So, yeah, are they a bunch of critters? If they're a bunch of critters, then it might be a little much, because it's like they just watched a, multi-year campaign. Which, if you think about when you sit and you watch a campaign like Critical Role, the difference between sitting and watching one and sitting and playing one is not that big. So, I think if you watch a campaign that deeply, it could be a bit much to then play a campaign that's similar. But if your campaign is significantly different but still has Vecna, then great. And if it excites you, and it'll excite your players. Well, the new campaign doesn't have Vecna in it. I think it was the old campaign that had Vecna in it. The old Critical Role campaign Vecna was the bad guy. It was a 4-hour battle against them. Yeah. So they haven't seen it, and Vecna's fine. There's a lot of villains, though. So, it's kind of up to you. I mean, I ran a 4-year campaign against Orcus, and I loved it. And Orcus is still near and dear to my Orcus mini is sitting up there, and I beat the crap out of that poor guy. And there's a lot of liches, too. You could have, I think a fun one might be fighting Vlaakith, Vlaakith the Lich Queen, who runs the Githyanki. And now we have Mordenkainen's, which is filled with awesome Githyanki and a really good description of the Githyanki place. And it even has a huge, like, their city, which is sitting upon the body of a dead, Colossus god thing. So, a Githyanki campaign would be a lot of fun. Step Back History is just some Shadowfell and the Raven Queen fit into the story, and Vecna obviously fits into the villain slot there. Yeah, I don't know where Vecna fits in the Raven Queen. Raven Queen changed, right? The Raven Queen is now different in 5th than she was in 4th. And I kind of lost track. I read the, Mordenkainen's, but I kind of, I read a lot of stuff and I forget it. And, there's a Sararak. He's a fantastic Lich, and, we got his stat block, and just make sure he replaces knock with some useful spells. My players still say, like, all he can do is open doors. So the characters went back and said they were going to fight Withers, and they went back to up the stairs and into room 28, and they faced off against Withers. And for Withers, I had just picked up the Ravnica book, and I decided to use the Devkaran Lich stat block as the stat block for Withers. And that worked pretty well, but they are pretty robust. So the Withers was CR 14, but we're talking about 5 8th level characters, and they were pretty, or 9th level, I think they're 9th level characters. So 5 9th level characters against a single 14th level. Oh, and it was the 14th level plus a pair of the Tomb Guardians, my empowered Tomb Guardians. So they still were beating the hell out of him. And then I pulled out the Blasphemies. Drive-through RPG. Blasphemies. That's not what I want. I don't know what that is. Why is this not working? Something like that. Whatever. All right. So I used the Blasphemies. Rob, you know what? I've got a link to this stupid thing right over here. I certainly haven't the old one. Here we are. Boar. That's why Bowl wasn't working. I'm a moron. Sorry about that. So, Blasphemies of Bor Boalish. Rob Schwab put these out, and Bor Boalish himself. These are 24 new, really terrible spells that you can use in your 5th edition game, and I used them, and all of a sudden, when he started to have a hard time, I started giving him lots of these spells. And it scared the hell out of people. They were worried that bones were getting ripped out of them. They were going to get teleported into walls. Oh my God. And I was going to have them pull off some really big ones, but I was like, I really don't want their heads to explode. Like literally their heads could explode. And then I was like, I don't want to kill them with these spells like that just get shown. So, but they did defeat him finally. And that was kind of the end of the session. It was a great big fight and it was really hard. Let's see. Best lazy DM advice was go for a daily 30-minute walk to sort out the place the campaign was in to help me figure out what's going on. That's awesome. I wasn't sure. Like, I'm like, well, people would probably take a walk. It's good justification to take a walk, but I doubt anybody who's not taking a walk is going to take a walk because I put it into a book. But boy, it helps my game too. I do it almost every day, and I really love to think about my game while I'm going out for a walk. So I'm glad that worked for you. That's cool. Plus, it's really nice. It's always nice to take a walk outside, get away from your cell phone for a while. So they defeated Withers. And just the advice to leave the headphones at home. Yeah, just take a walk and think. We don't do enough of that anymore. It's a very Fahrenheit 451 idea. Like, put the headphones at home. And one of the characters, Ogechi, this is the one who's got all kinds of crazy connections going on. He said, I want to learn one of those spells. He picked up, like somebody burned it. A paladin burnt it with a flaming sword. But he managed to get a scrap. And he read the scrap. And the scrap gave him this new power that it's like a flay flesh lightning bolt where you fire this necrotic blast down a hallway for like 14d6 damage. And it rips the flesh off of creatures that are hit inside. So Ogechi rolled highly. Oh, and he's got he doesn't like healing spells. Like if he's, when he accepts any sort of radiant energy into his body, he rebels against it. So it's really, I don't know what's happening with his character, but it's really bad. Step Back History says, I'm in Toronto, so walking is getting quickly unpleasant. I've got a couple of places. I love walking malls, man. I'm a mall walker, and I find malls that aren't packed, and then I go walk around there. There's also a couple. I have a museum that's near me that I can go to and walk in nice environment controlled. And if I'm out in 30 minutes, I don't have to pay, so that's nice too. So the blasphemies really worked. They took Withers from being kind of a chump who was going to get his ass kicked into a really dangerous, really powerful enemy who's just wielding this terrible magic, and like, who the hell is this guy and where is he getting his powers from, right? And the players didn't know what the hell they were, and they're like, what is going on? And nobody shouted foul. Nobody was like, this is BS. You're just making things up. So they could have, because it's practically made up. So that worked really well. And the session ended there. It ended with Withers defeated. You'd think, Withers defeated, and now they're convinced that the Tomb Guardians are now gone. But the Tomb Guardians aren't gone. There's still a lot of them out there. They're just berserk. So I think our strong start for today's session is going to be the Battle of Two Tomb. I have my phone on me. Let's see if I can find it. Tomorrow's Sly Flourish article is going to be I don't think that's going to work. Yeah, that's a bummer. I wonder if history works on this cross domain. Does not look like it. I guess it was Friday when I did that. I use my phone a lot. I'm looking for I have the URL to my article. Actually, let me look up one other thing here. Sorry for all this. Is that my login? Yay. Okay. So tomorrow morning's article is the Tomb Guardian generator. Here's your sneak peek at the article. Random enhanced Tomb Guardian generators. So we can pick, let's see, we have Hobgoblin Tomb Guardian armed with Radiant Flail and an Icy Shortsword empowered with a Sleep Spell. Orcish Tomb Guardian armed with an Icy Battle Axe and a Necrotic Warhammer. I like this one. So we're going to see a fight between two Tomb Guardians. Abyssal Tomb Guardian with an Electric Mace and an Icy Spear empowered with a Cone of Cold spell. That looks cool too, so we're going to throw that. So two Tomb Guardians. Definitely would be a cool idea to think about your D&D camp walking through a museum. I live near a huge one and I have yearly pass, so I'm definitely doing that. Yeah, Step Back History, going to the museum. Added term. D&D was not an approved term. What's up with that? How do you get this article? Wait till tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning on the front page of Sly Flourish, you will see this article. But for you Twitch folks, because I love you, you can click that article and get it. The way my Sly Flourish, the website, actually runs with a custom bit of Python code that I wrote. And it actually, when I draft articles for publication, usually on Fridays, the URL is live, but it's not on the site until it's released that day. Usually Monday morning at some point, early in the morning, like 6 in the morning. It's auto. There's a job that looks for new articles and adds them to the front page. Step Back History says, a Gorilla Tomb Guardian armed with a forceful dagger and a psychic spike chain empowered with a sleep spell is my new favorite NPC. Good. Right? This is another one where there are thousands of combinations of these Tomb Guardians. So this is a Tomb Guardian generator that I wrote for the website, and it will be up. It was not a highly ranked article when I put out my little vote on like what articles do you want. People didn't really go for this. Human Tomb Guardian armed with an acidic flail and a radiant warhammer empowered by the Cloud Kill spell. Hang on, I got a cough. So we're gonna grab a few more of these, I think. Let's see. Let's reload just for fun. Bang. Elven Tomb Guardian armor with Radiant Longsword and Psychic Warhammer with Sleep Spell. Dwarven. We'll grab these 5. And we throw them under monsters. Bang. So we have some monsters. So I think the idea is that the Tomb Guardians are now berserk. They're still around. There's still a number of them running around, but they are destroyed. So that will be our strong start. Is they will watch a battle between 2 of these things fighting each other, and then whatever survives will kind of rush the party and be killed quickly. That could be fun. So, who are the characters? Characters are Smoke, the Tabaxi Ranger. He is possessed by one of the 9 gods, but I keep forgetting which one. And I wrote it down, but I left it upstairs like I did last week. So I don't know which one of the Tomb Guardians, or which one of the trickster gods he is possessed by. Am I on the right page? I am. Gabriel Tharmond is the Azamar Celestial Warlock Bard who died and has a different soul. Dreams of the Soulmonger is possessed by Unk and is indecisive. He often now has dreams about being tortured by the Son sisters down below. Ogechi is the one that's got all kinds of craziness going on. He is probably, was voted in high school as most likely to be a apprentice of a Sararak. So Punchy, the Kenku Samurai, is possessed by Zugtamoy and Obalaka. Obalaka has now become possessed by Zugtamoy, so now there's like a Zugtamoy enhanced Obalaka that speaks to him. I sort of combined the 2 NPCs. And then we have Alistair. And I forget Brian's character's name. Damn. I have to go find it. Alistair, Falling Aasimar Paladin, who's trying to protect another group in the tomb, and they all died, and now wants to protect this group. And he has an Onyx figurine. Figurine. Of a dog named Barnaby, and he's from Neverwinter. I don't think he's possessed yet. So they now know, let's see, what secrets are they uncovering? So those are the characters. And Brian's new character is the Dragonborn Dragon Sorcerer. Warren got murdered by Bodax. Yeah, Step Back History. You missed that last week, I think. Warren, made a series of bad choices and went from the elemental burn rooms and ran back down into the room full of the Bodax and tried to fight the Bodax by himself. And they killed him. And then at the end of the game, they saw Warren coming down the hall, and then Warren's mouth opened like Invasion of the Pod People and turned into a Bodak, and they had to fight him as a Bodak, and he is dead. So Warren is dead. And I felt really bad. Not as bad as killing the character in my other Wednesday game who went into the black box and disintegrated her character. I felt bad about that too. I've been killing a lot of characters. The Tomb is no joke, I'll tell you. So we have the 2 Tomb Guardians as our strong start. What scenes take place? I have no idea, because they can choose what direction they're going to go. So we will let them, I will just kind of tell them what directions they haven't been, and they will pick, and I will figure it out. Secrets and clues. Other secret is that the tomb Tomb Guardians have gone crazy. I'm just hammering out secrets. Some of these are old secrets, but I remember them and I think they're important. Step Back History says, so Mike, what do you think WotC is sitting on for 2019? You know about expert predictions, right? Experts, if one can call myself an expert. So you can consider me one who thinks a lot about D&D. I will be comfortable with that. I don't know what they're going to do, and I'm not in any current playtest, so I can say that without lying. I'll tell you what I hope they do, and I would love to see a book like Ravnica with the same layout as like the same organization as Ravnica done for Planescape. And I think that would be good because they haven't done Planescape, I think, since second edition. Was there a third edition? Was there a third edition Planescape? Yeah, so they did not do Planescape since second edition. And if you look at Mordenkainen's, it's packed with Planescape stuff. So maybe that was like their attempt to kind of do Planescape, but I think they could do either a campaign adventure in Planescape or an actual. I think I would prefer, instead of them doing another big ass adventure, which would be fine. Like if they did a Tomb of Annihilation only for Planescape, I'd be happy with that. But I would actually, I love how they did Ravnica, the style of Ravnica. Let me pull that up here. The organization of this, of like you've got new character options, you've got this big section on the guilds, and again, this could, Planescape has lots of guilds. I love that they picked like one region, so it's like, imagine they just said, here's information about, I don't know if you could do all of Sigil, but maybe a big piece of Sigil. And dig into like the places, and if you look at these, they all have maps, right? Like every one of these has like a cool map. So I'd love to see that. And then this big chapter on creating adventures, where instead of building, like what I would like to see, and again, this is not a prediction. Where's the cool one? Who's the bad guys? Cult of Rakdos are pretty cool. I was reading about these. Every one of them has like a map to a location that's tied to, that's a grim piece of art. A map to a location that's tied to the guild. So there's, 10 of these locations that can sit inside. So it's this very like macro to micro focus on the world. And like, I don't know anything about Ravnica, and I feel like on reading this, I could run at least a 2-tier campaign. I could run a tier 1, tier 2 campaign in this. And I think for Sigil, it'd be cool too, to do like a tier 2, tier 3, or even beyond campaign. So short answer to your question is I'd love to see them do Sigil. I would love to see them do it in the style of Ravnica. I have no idea if that's what they're going to do though. I don't claim, the thing is like, predictions are kind of nonsense in this, because it's like, 5 people are making decisions about it, and you can't necessarily, that's a small sample size. There's not we can draw lines to like what they've done in the past, but Mike Mearls himself said, like, don't try to look at what we've done in the past as the way we're going to do things in the future, which of course every stock market thing says the same thing. So I think it's more fun to say what we would want than it is to say what we think they'll do. But I've got lots of friends that like to talk about what they think they'll do. Chris Perkins' Big Book of Hags. I'd be good with that. Although now we got new hags. We have the Blood Witches in Ravnica. I was looking at them too. The Cult of Rakdos has these Blood Witch guys. Is that Mark Winters? I think that's the artist. I don't think that's an actual picture of Mark Winters. If so, Mark Winters is a badass. Yeah, I want Planescape, and I think Planescape would be great because like they've done and everyone's got a favorite. Oh, I wish they would do Dark Sun, and I wish they would do, whatever, Greyhawk. But Planescape is unique enough. Planescape is a really cool place, and they haven't done it since second edition, so they're due. And again, the only sort of indication that they might would be all the Planescape stuff that's inside. All the Planescape stuff that is inside Mordenkainen's. But then that also might be a vote for, like, we're not going to do Planescape because you have everything you need in Mordenkainen. So I don't know. Yeah, and Step Back History says Planescape would be great because it can attach literally to any other campaign world, which means you could actually start it off in Forgotten Realms and then have it go out to Planescape. Pixelscapes, Jen is here. Hi, Jen. So what do you guys think? Those of you in chat, what go ahead, make a prediction. Where do you think they'll go? And what would you want them to see? What do you hope that they will do in 2019? I had a very interesting, I don't know if I talked about this last week. I might have. I had a very interesting, what I thought to be a very interesting Twitter thread about what D&D needed next. Like, we have live play shows and we have a lot of these books and we've got, lots of attention on the game. There's lots of things going on. What does D&D need? What does D&D need both from WotC and what does D&D need from third-party publishers? And I had some really interesting results, but by far the thing that people wanted was more settings. They wanted more setting books. And I think, like, the problem is people thought about it and they're like, well, we've had at least 2 new settings this year. Eberron is now available on DM's Guild, and then Ravnica is out as well. So we have 2. The question is, I think people hand wave because, like, well, Eberron is out, but it's beta and it's on a website. It's not a book you could buy in a store. Yeah, that's right. And Ravnica is some Magic place. You're like, yeah, that's true too. But if you don't know anything about Magic, like, it's a brand new world. Think about it like when Eberron came out with 3rd edition. We didn't know what the hell it was. We're like, what is this place? And then you read a book and, wow, this place is cool. And I don't know anything about it, Ravnica at all. And I played Magic, but it's been many, many years. So, that idea of, it's basically an entirely new world. Merle's did a Step Back History post thing. I'm going to assume you didn't swear in this. It keeps asking for approval. Merle's did a bunch of work on a total overhaul of the Mystic. That makes me think something psychic is in the pipeline. Also, they've been very coy about what Lot's been up to recently, which makes me think of Drow campaign. Yeah, and they have a lot of Drow in, there's a lot of new Drow in Mordenkainen's as well. So that could be another, misdirection. Added the word pipe was not approved. Twitch's approval thing is really weird. Oh my god, I've got a game to prepare. So secrets. Stone Sisters have spies, ants, small animals, small toys. The Stone tend not. It goes on above. Yeah, so I think much of the rest of the tomb is going to kind of go dormant. They don't need to necessarily worry about, I don't think resting. I think resting, like, now they don't have anybody screwing with them. I think the hags won't mind sort of possessing them on occasion. I love the idea that the hags can actually enter a Leomund's tiny hut because they can step in and out of the ethereal plane, which is pretty powerful. But they might not give a damn, what else? So, yeah. There's a ruler on floor 3, but no one has ever seen it. Because it's invisible. Shh, invisible. Invisible beholder. I gotta bring my invisible beholder mini in case I fight it. What else? Oh, one more secret. What was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 more secrets. What are 2 more things they can discover about the place? The Stone Sisters lost the keys. They learned. They actually had the creature. What was it? Gilly the aboleth. They don't trust it. They think that it is. They think it's somebody screwing with them, and they're not wrong. But they're not wrong. But they don't know that it's a split personality. So that's pretty cool. So this is, we're in an interesting state with this adventure, which is they're really just climbing through the adventure itself. And I'm not, I've read a lot of it, and I'm running it for 2 groups, so I'm kind of deep into it, and I just sort of like run the rooms as I run them. I have one tip. And I really ought to I post a tip here, because boy, I kind of, drop the ball is a big one. I'm sure no one mattered, no one cared. But one of the chambers, let's see, what floor is it on? Yes, room 22. Room 22, Papazotl's tomb, has the big glass cauldrons that pop out skeletons. 12 skeletons isn't exciting at all. Because if you go to, let's see, when we look at the art, there's a picture from here. It was used in some of the preview stuff. Here it is, but that's a terrible version of it. Ugh, come on. So this is the art, right? And this art is badass. I see more than 12 skeletons in here. I see, hell, like 20 skeletons coming out of each one of these things, right? Like, look at them all. These are not 12 skeletons, and that is an epic fight. So to me, it's like, it shouldn't be 12. It should be 50. Right? Like they're just going to hit turn undead anyway. So if they're going to turn them or hit them with fireballs, give them a lot of skeletons. Have it dumping 10 skeletons around out, or 5 skeletons around per thing. These things should be dumping skeletons like crazy. And I really felt like, 12 was not nearly as many skeletons as there ought to be. Yeah. So Beck says, what if 12 from each cauldron? 12,000 skeletons. 12,000 is a little bit much. Like, you're just going to crush the characters in bones if you do that. But 50 is not under, having it start off with 50 skeletons, or, right, 12 per, right? So that's 48 skeletons that start, and then, 6 more from each cauldron every round. You want to just pour skeletons out of these things. And skeletons are not that bad. And again, if only you had a simple book that offered fine ways to handle metric shit tons of how do you handle that many? Like, people be like, I don't have a mini, for that. If only there was some book. Oh, there it is, running large numbers of monsters. For attacks, you don't even need to do you don't even need a calculator. Subtract the monster's attack modifier from the defender's AC and consult the results column. Determine the number of monsters who hit by dividing the total number of monsters by the number of those indicated under monsters per single success. So if there are 48 monsters and the result is 13 to 14, then 48 divided by 3, that is the number of monsters that hit. So you do need to do a little bit of math. I also have on Sly Flourish there's a calculator for handling large numbers, mob calculator. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, look at that, mob damage calculator. So you say, let's see, they're hitting a paladin who isn't using a shield. There are 48 skeletons attacking him. His attack bonus of the skeletons is 4. I think he just put 4. And the total damage is 5. He takes 80 points of damage, right? 35% of the skeletons attack him, and he takes 80 damage as he is, attacked by 48 skeletons. That's pretty awesome. But he's not going to be attacked by 48. He's going to be attacked by like 12, right? So he takes 20 points of damage. Um, great way to have tons of monsters attacking lots of dudes. And I think it is good to have a large amount, have a system for handling a large amount. Another thing you can do is reskin a monster. So you might say, instead of, if you've got 48, but then the problem is you still want to handle like turn undead. And how does turn undead work when you're saying like there's a skeletal swarm? What does it do? It loses half of its. Why did I go to the DM's Guild? Why am I going there? That's what I wanted. You could say like, well, we're just going to reskin a fire giant into a, this is your, there. Although give it the armor class of a skeleton. So like whatever it is, 12. Oh no, it's 15, right? AC 15. So you say like it's a swarm. It's AC is 15. It has this many hit points, and it has these attacks. So you can basically take a big monster and pretend it's a swarm, and they give it swarm traits. And then you might say like it attacks at disadvantage after turn undead, or it does half damage or something like that if it gets turned, and apply a bunch of damage. Maybe it does. Matt Colville will likely be making a Wars and Battles book in 2019. That'd be good. Step Back History says, if only there's some way there was some book you could purchase in the DM's Guild for $10.99. Yeah, especially a hardcover version, right? Soon, 2 weeks. 2 weeks you'll be able to buy it. I'm sorry. I have one and I love it. And I use it every day. Every day I play D&D. So I hope you guys will love it too. Let's just do a quick look back at the game because I think I'm all set. I got my secrets. Really, I need a strong start in secrets. That's what I really need because I know the characters pretty well at this point. And the fantastic locations of the book. I've got some monsters. So I just threw a bunch of rando Tomb Guardians, and it's in the adventure. So I'm pretty good. So we're just going to grab this and mail it to myself so that I don't lose it. And we got 5 minutes to talk about D&D. Who wants to talk about something D&D? What questions you got? What's an interesting topic that you want to talk about when in the world of D&D? What's getting your attention these days? I often, my little head thing is when I go out for my walks, is to, hello kitty. You want to come up? Come up here and say hello to everybody? Yeah. I often think like what's going on in the world of D&D, and particularly I like to think about like what does D&D need that I can help with. There's nothing in the WotC hype engine at the moment. That is true. It's really interesting. They published something, but they haven't talked about something new. I'll mention, just to complain, I don't yet have my Hydro 76 copy version of the main books. I pre-ordered them at my game shop, but I guess they're not on the cool list, and they're getting them this coming week. Oh, by the way, there will not be a show next week. I'm not having a game. I'm visiting my mom up in Boston, so I'll have to mention that on the Twitters that there will not be a show. But for those of you regulars who are hanging out in Twitch, and thank you, by the way, it really means a lot to me that you guys come and chat in Twitch. There will not be a Boston. Yep. The Tahaba. I will not be having a game. I'll be hanging out at my mom's place. I don't know. Maybe I could do a show on my phone at my mom's place. She'd probably like that. I could chat about D&D. I'll have my laptop, so I could try something. But I'll be on Wi-Fi. Like here, I'm hardlined onto a 1 gig connection. She does watch these. I don't think she's here. Did anybody see anybody here? I don't think she's here. Normally she's here. If you're there, hello, Mom. If you're not there, hello anyway. What else is going on in the world of D&D? I don't know. I mean, we got the 2 books. I didn't talk about Dungeon of the Mad Mage yet. I'm still got to digging into it. And it's an interesting product. And I'm hoping it fulfills kind of what I wanted, which was my mom just watches streams, but she says she wants me to run a game for them when I'm up there. We'll see if that happens. She has a lot of ideas. Dungeon of the Mad Mage is an interesting one. And I'm curious... I am curious if, how it works exactly. Like how I was kind of hoping that each level could be its own, its own small adventure. And, but I don't know if that's how it works. Like, I don't know if, I think that they're very much still flavored around Undermountain. So you can certainly strip it for locations, and you can probably strip it for places. But they don't have their own individual stories. So it's a little hard to run it like as a one-shot. They're also really big, so they're probably not going to be great one-shot adventures. So I think those of us who thought of it like I used to think it was kind of the 5th edition version of Dungeon Delve. It is not the 5th edition version of Dungeon Delve, I don't think, because the levels are interconnected and they are bigger than you can run in one adventure. So there are many other products, third-party, but this is something where I think third-party products can really help. And a couple of my favorites, of course, are the Kobold Press ones. Kobold Press has a few. They have Prepared and Prepared 2, which are individual encounters. They have Eldritch Lairs and... what's the other? Kobold Press had one for Tome of Beasts. Lair of Beasts? Is that what it's called? Let's go to Kobold Press's website. Store, D&D. So they just put out Midgard Sagas, which are the adventures that they run at conventions. Oh, and of course they have the Warlock Lairs. I actually wrote one of these. What is this here? Here we go. So they have the Creature Codex Lairs. They have Eldritch Lairs. And they have another Book of Lairs, I think it's called. So there are 3. There are 3 Kobold Press books. Yeah, here's Eldritch Lairs. I wrote one of those. And I wrote one for Book of Lairs as well. It's down here somewhere. And then Prepared 1 and 2. So you can get PDFs of those, and they're fantastic books. Yeah, Book of Lairs, right? Here's Book of Lairs. So that's, lots of, if you're looking for one-shot D&D games, these have beautiful full-color maps. They have 10 or so, like I think Book of Lairs has how many? 24 layers in it. And Eldritch Lairs has a whole bunch too. My screen is shrunk, which is why everything's looking weird. Yeah, so if you want one-shot layers, man, Kobold Press is hard to beat. I mean, I think there's other groups too, and if you guys in Twitch chat know of other companies that are making books. So yeah, it's $10 for the PDF of Eldritch Lairs, and Eldritch Lairs has how many? I don't think it says how many, but fair number. And then, of course, if I could recommend Sly Flourish's Fantastic Adventures, right? This is one where it is a book of 10 adventures, all set between levels 1 and 5. You can run them at different levels. Each of them with they're easy to run. This is my little advertisement at the end of the show. Easy to run, nice artwork, full color maps. There's your map, and flavor text and descriptions and everything. All uses SRD monsters, so the monsters are all freely available. You could theoretically grab this adventure and the SRD and play a game of D&D and pay no money at all if you use an online die roller app. You could have some great fun with friends, and yeah, I'm probably going to do another one of these. Don't tell anybody. So, that was all my, what about the Dungeon of the Mad Mage? I don't know if I can run Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I think Buyer's Guide to Third-Party Content would be useful, like how to tell what's high-quality, play-tested, etc. Yeah, a paperback PHB. I know somebody that took the PHB and had it spiral bound. So you could always do that. And then it's sort of paperback. It's just enormous. Yeah, I thought about doing an article. I think I have one about like how to do. I think I might have dumped it though. More one shot, where to get good one shot adventures for D&D, and yeah, I mean the ones I just mentioned, I think are where I would go. My stuff was play tested. The Kobold Press stuff was play tested. Kobold Press puts out really good stuff. That new one that came out, and I haven't even really read them. I bought it immediately though. As soon as I saw it, like, oh, yep, I'm in. Midgard Sagas. It is $15 for the PDF, and it is how many full 6 5th edition adventures for level 3 to 8. Originally designed to be playable in a convention time slot in 4 to 6 hours, so they're packed with fast action. All of these were play tested, and the ones that are in here are. I don't know if I played any of these. They are. I'm sure that these are really solid. So, well, we are over time. I want to thank everybody in Twitch chat for a fine conversation today. Thank you all for sitting around and watching me prep my game. I want to thank everybody on YouTube who's watching on YouTube, and I don't know, everyone who's making D&D awesome. Thank all of you. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. So go out there, take a walk, think about D&D, and do what you can to go play a game. I will see you guys later. Thank you very much.